Um, Hello everyone. Welcome back to the fourth day of this session of Youth Leadership Development Program. Wishing you all a very beautiful evening to everyone present here, and a beautiful morning to our beautiful speaker, who is Rita Kakati Shah, ma'am. Since this is the fourth and the last day of today's this long session of Youth Developmental Program, I, Sankranti Devi, would like to take this opportunity to welcome each and everyone to this session. As we all have been with Ma'am Rita Kakati Shah, ma'am, since 3 days, and now it's the fourth day. So, without any further introduction, I would like to request ma'am to kindly carry out the rest of the session.
Amazing. Thank you, Sankriti. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if this works. Okay, the sheen screen isn't working. Let me try it again.
Yeah, sometimes it takes time.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, then we'll do what we did last time, and I will just talk about this. Talk about the slides.
Okay, sure, ma'am.
Rajasri, tell Ditartho Kosi to ask his students to join.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah, the screen sharing isn't working. So what I'm going to try and do instead is just, I will talk through the slides and we'll just keep it a little bit more interactive.
Or Rita, can you do one thing? If you send a slide, your PPT, then I think Jyotismita will be able to present from here. Then you can talk. She will just show you the slide.
We can try to do that. Sometimes the issue is, Uncle, is that because I have a different version of PowerPoint, sometimes there could be distortions.
Okay.
Because I've tried that in the past, and sometimes, I do a lot of animations on my slides.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you have a different version, the animation, the arrows come in the wrong position, and it looks a bit funky.
Okay,
so
no problem.
No problem at all. I will just talk about it.
Go in your own way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love planning for the unforeseen. So this is an example of it. So welcome everyone to the fourth and final session of the Youth Development Series of our Fundamentals of Leadership. So what did we learn in this series so far? We learned about presentations and communication skills. We learned about confidence. We learned about the power of networking and personal branding and why it's so very important. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about more international organizations and what is corporate social responsibility. It is a term that is used around the rest of the world. We are Oromia. We are from the Northeast. We are in the middle of the whole world. We're in the center. We have some of the most budding entrepreneurs, and we're very sustainable in terms of our development of our natural resources. So it's a very appropriate topic, especially from those of us from the Northeast and Assam. Can I just quickly request everyone to mute their mics, if that's possible, just because we can hear some background noise.
Okay, all of you should mute yourself here.
Thank you. So we're going to start by talking about what is an international organization. What is corporate social responsibility? Why is it even important? Why do we use that word? And then how do we get involved in corporate social responsibility? How do we get involved in international organizations in particular? And then we're going to do a recap of what UMA is about. Why? Because we are a mission-focused corporate social responsibility firm. And then we're going to open it up to official questions. As always, I'm going to ask Sankriti to monitor any chat, any hand raises, anything like that. We want to keep this interactive. So if you have any questions, please feel free. So what is an international organization? Anybody here want to take a guess? What exactly makes an international organization? What is unique about it? What are ways of defining international organizations? Who wants to take a bit of a guess? Who wants to put their hand up to start the session off? Or write in the chat function as well. That's absolutely fine.
One answer we have got now, that is have influence around the world.
Yes. Very good answer. And I think somebody else is trying to say something, but we can't hear properly. So maybe if you want to write in the chat, that might be easier. And I think somebody just wrote, like the international organization, WHO, the World Health Organization. Absolutely. That is also an international organization. Sankriti, are there any other comments?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So thank you for those of you who wrote in. So basically, an international organization is, as the name suggests, it is something that is based overseas. It is international, and they take usually 3 different forms. So one of them could be an intergovernmental organization. So where we think of governments, governments speak to other governments as well. So between departments, they could speak to each other. That is an intergovernmental. And when they speak to their overseas counterparts, that forms an international organization. Another form is a non-governmental organization. So you could have something like a not-for-profit. You can have a separate entity, such as the World Health Organization, which one of you wrote in the chat. These are all examples of international organizations. And then the third type is really a multinational enterprise. A multinational enterprise is basically where you have a local presence, but that presence has grown so much that you also have overseas presence, not just in one country, not just in 2 countries, but typically in many different marketplaces around the world. So that's what we really mean by a multinational organization there. Do we have any questions so far? I know one person mentioned WHO is in an organization. Do you want to maybe make a guess of other organizations that you've heard of that you may think it has an international presence somewhere? So we had WHO so far. Anybody else want to write in the chat function? Any other organizations you can think about? Nestle, I say Nestle, come up, yep.
WTO, Nike, Adidas.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. These are all big organizations that, that most of us have heard of. Some of them are clothing, some of them are food. These are organizations that we all use in our everyday lives, sometimes without even thinking about it. Yep, I can see ILO coming up as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Amazing. So these are things, the United Nations. Yes, absolutely.
Amnesty International.
Yes, absolutely. And then Amnesty International as well. So these are organizations. Some of the ones you've mentioned are multinationals. So you have your Nestle's, you have your Nikes, you have your Adidas's. These are big multinational organizations. Then you have United Nations, which works closely with the government, but it's standalone. So it has close ties there. And then you have other companies which are governmental ones as well. Yes, the World Health Organization as well. That's another one. WHO. Absolutely. So these are organizations that, somebody said me representing myself. UMA is also an international organization. Absolutely. UNICEF, yes, that's the Women and Children wing for, and the food wing for the United Nations. Absolutely. So these are organizations that all of us at some point, sometimes without even realizing it, have come to terms with. They impact our daily lives. When you don't even realize, you go to the street and you buy a piece of chocolate and you don't realize, but it's something that comes from Nestle, it can come from Cadbury's, it could come from an international organization that you don't realize. So these are prominent things. Here in the United States or in the United Kingdom, where I was born, we see things, so many things made in India, made in Bangladesh, made in China. Every little thing, our electronics, everything that we use come from international organizations. So these are part and parcel of things that we all need in our everyday lives. We're almost dependent upon it. So we're going to focus more on multinational and global companies today. So think of your Nike, your shoe brands, think of your Adidas, think of your clothing brand out there. If there's any designer labels that you can think of stars that you know of in the media, celebrities, and what they wear, what they might do. These are sort of companies that they might wear. Think of industries, think of the banking industry, the finance industry, consulting industry, think of overseas industries, wildlife, zoology, think of all of the different professions that you might be experts in, and think of their global presence and what they have. And these are the organizations we're going to talk about. So why do you think international organizations are there? What is their purpose? I mean, you think about it, we could just have our national and local produce all the time, which is absolutely great. We need to do that. But what's the point of opening it up? You know, why bother getting Nike shoes when we can get our local Gohati or, you know, local brand or something? Why? Why do we do this? Does anyone want to take a guess or write what you know in the chat? And then Sankriti, when you have some
power of a brand.
Yes, absolutely. Power of a brand. Remember last week in our last session, we talked about the power of branding and how important it is. International organizations absolutely have that powerful branding.
Helping people globally.
Yes, absolutely.
World leaders to make people aware, spread awareness.
Absolutely.
Through ads.
Through adverts, absolutely, yes.
Okay, free market.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. All of your suggestions have been spot on. So one of you mentioned, Rani, you mentioned free market. So we're going to just look at that a little bit. So if you think about it, you know, there is an element of international trade that looks about, you know, spreading awareness, spreading things. But there is another reason we do this, because if you think about it, how does Nike help the world? How does Adidas help the world? It helps us. It helps our shoe trade. There is definitely a branding there. But what else does overseas markets do? Well, they help to open borders. Previously, in the old day, it was hard to go across the border and say, we've got a particular trade or product. What do you have? But initially, it was done. We're thinking of hundreds and thousands of years ago at this stage, when trade first started, it was for convenience. It was also to open up trade, like you said. For example, we might have a particular lentil or a particular part of particular rice in Assam that is specifically unique. And then in another country in Europe, they might say, well, we don't have rice, but you know what? We have steel, we have different metals. Why don't we open up an agreement that lets you send your rice to us and we will send you our metal and our steel? So there's different ways of doing it, and why people do that, to open up borders for convenience. You don't just want to open up borders to be nice to somebody else. Initially, you do it for your own convenience. And how does it strengthen and grow your own economy? So that's one. And then the second point is it helps to modernize your customary exchanges. When you've got goods going back and forth, border control, the whole point of that is to formalize and to modernize the process that we can exchange our goods to each other. Assam tea, as we all know, it's the topmost brand of all teas in the world, but in the United Kingdom, where I come from, absolutely. In Great Britain, Assam tea is drunk the most. It's the favorite tea of the Queen of England, Her Royal Highness, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. She drinks Assam tea. But you think about it. What is Assam tea? How did it come? It's because of trade borders, trade negotiations that the British first came. The British went to China, found the tea leaves in China, and then planted them in the rich soils of Upper Assam. And that's really how Assam tea came to be. So because of that, that came along and it opened up agreements initially for Britishers, literally for their convenience. They said, we like to drink the tea. We're going back now to the United Kingdom. We're going to leave India alone, but we want our tea. So let's open up this trade agreement. Let's work a way that we can talk to each other so we can get this going back and forth. So there's plenty of similar things like spice and other trades as well. So it helps to reduce trade barriers across the world as well because of that. If you have negotiations, if you have multinational companies and you have special deals in place, you can actually open up trade barriers as well. So Sankriti, are there any other comments? I think I saw something flash by.
Yeah, that was me. I just told that they act as catalysts, right, for like coalition formation and also facilitate for cooperation and coordination among member nations.
Absolutely, 100%. It's getting people together. So it's for forming a coalition, but it's also getting people together in different ways. It encourages, to your point, Sankriti, it encourages cultural and communities benefits across the world as well. How many people know about what different people in different countries are doing at the moment? We do a lot of that because of the trade and because we have multinational corporations. Even if you think in the finance sector, I started my career in finance. I was at Goldman Sachs, an international investment bank. But the way things were done in my office in London is very different to how things are done in the New York office or in the Washington, D.C. or the Dallas office or the Bangalore office. Everything is very different, but we're working towards the same goal. We're taking advantage of local talent in the local markets to do that. Local talents that represent the different countries around the world to bring different strengths to the market. So it encourages cultural benefits. It encourages people to bring their local talents to strengthen and broaden what you're going to serve in the market. So thanks for everybody for talking about that and why you think multinational corporations in particular are very important. Now we're going to talk about what is corporate social responsibility. Okay, first I want a show of hands. Who here might have heard of the term corporate social responsibility? Sometimes it's popular, sometimes it's not so popular. Who here has heard of the term? If you have, put something in the chat. Just put a yes or a no. Okay, so I'm seeing quite a few no's. No. Okay. So I'm really glad we picked the topic in that case, because corporate social responsibility is a word that as you guys start to think and look at different companies around the world, it's going to be a key term that keeps coming up. And I'll talk to you about why in a moment. So far we have lots of no's on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So think about the name, corporate. Okay, what does corporate suggest? These are companies that deal with business of some sort. So that's one thing. Social means is to deal with society. So there's something to do with society and responsibility. So what the name suggests is exactly what it is. Corporations, these multinational corporations, have formed a certain group in their companies that specifically make sure they have some sort of responsibility to the local societies. That's why it's called corporate social responsibility. Big companies, multinationals, are known to make a lot of money, a lot of profits. So one thing they're starting to do, and they've increasingly started to do around the world, is carve aside some of their money, make sure they spend some of their earnings to help the local governments, the local businesses in their area and overseas. So that's really key to what corporate social responsibility is about. Why am I talking about that to you guys? Well, Assam, in particular, the northeast of India, we're very rich in natural resources already. Oil, textiles, silk, tea, just to name a few, wildlife, different plant life around the world comes specifically from the Northeast. Bhut Jolokia, that's another one. So popular in the rest of the world. That was another multinational trade that happened there. It's so popular in the UK and America. They call it the ghost pepper here, but it's popular. They have ice cream flavors here called the Bhut Jolokia ice cream. It's so popular, but it comes from Assam, as we all know. So why do we do that? Because our trade, Assam Northeast trade, is going slowly but surely around the rest of the world. Things that you guys are going to be involved in at some point in the future, whether just as using a product or as entrepreneurs, as local business people, as somebody that is using something tiny, be mindful that your product can be relevant in the rest of the world. And when that time comes, just make sure that it's been used correctly. So you want to make sure that if you're going to a big company, for example, you can target them through their corporate social responsibility and talk to them about what you're working on, where you come from, and why it's important to give back. Sankriti, I saw a comment.
Yes, ma'am. Is this the reason why big companies like Microsoft have charity events, or is this irrelevant?
Absolutely, yes. So you have big companies like Microsoft and other big multinational companies out there that specifically have events that raise funds. So there's two types of companies. One is your charitable companies, your non-governmental, your NGOs that raise funds from the public. That is a fundraiser. A corporate social responsibility is similar but different. Different because these are companies. These aren't charities. These are companies that make money as well, but these are smaller companies. These are local companies that do good for the society. They do good for the society. These are small companies. So big companies, what they do, they come and they help them. Think of Amazon, for example. Amazon is another example. They have partnerships with small companies, profit-making companies, in order for them to stock their own products. You have Amazon that they have their own brands. Flipkart is another one. They have their own brands, but they also contract with local vendors, local companies to increase their stock and help them and spread the word to other people in other countries as well. So that's exactly one of the reasons. So really, why are these companies important? Well, as we've just discussed, it helps your local community. It helps your community. Sankriti, were you going to say something?
No, ma'am, I was not telling anything.
Okay, no problem. So they help their local community. They are mission driven. Mission driven is they're trying to solve a purpose. So I'm talking about the small companies now that are corporate social responsibility companies. They help a certain community. They're mission driven. Other thing as well, they have economic efficiency. What that means, they're economical. They don't just go and spend money here, there, and everywhere. Why? Because these are small companies. So they're very, very used to saving money where it's due and not spending recklessly. So they're very good at budgeting. They have a lot of economic infrastructure already in place. The other thing as well, like you guys have mentioned, they have corporate sponsorships. So big companies like Microsoft, for example, can sponsor a smaller corporate social responsibility company. The other thing they can do, and some of you have mentioned this, is they can help the environment. Typically, corporate social responsibilities help the world in some way. They can help a community, they can help a group of people, they can help the environment as well. They can have lots of volunteer projects. Quite often you might see a corporate social responsibility company asking for volunteers, recruit to help do this and help this project. And that's exactly what it's for. So ultimately, why are we talking about this? Think of the world, think of the globe being in front of you. It's for globalization. It's helping to bring cultures together to help people ultimately. Are there any questions on corporate social responsibility so far? I know lots of you haven't heard of it. I want to ask a question if you have any.
Ma'am, we just have a question that how do international organizations get registered or created?
Absolutely. Very good question. So in order to do that, you have to have your local presence first. So set up your local office, your local organization, see what it is you do. Who are you serving? What problem are you solving in your particular area? And then extend it. If it's to do with shoes, think of Nike. First, you need to have your test market. Your test market is your local audience. It could be members of your family. It could be your local office. It could be people from your local gao. It could be anyone that you want them to be your test market. When it's successful, think about it. If I extended it to another city, somewhere outside in Assam, are people still going to wear it? Or is it only for my only tiny little solution when I'm doing that? And then you rebrand and you extend it outside. As you grow your test market population, you start getting renowned. That's when you start thinking, well, maybe this is a product that could be sold internationally. You might think initially, instead of just selling blindly to another country, you might think, you know what? I know that this might help a particular culture. This particular shoe is helping anybody who is working in the paddy field. They're waterproof, they're comfortable, whatever it is. Therefore, I think this same shoe can be used for anybody that might be in the boating industry or the fishery industry or in the paddy field industry in different countries. So you might start thinking, well, let me start thinking, how do I now start to market my product, knowing it's a solution provider to other companies, to other countries, and specifically to help them out. So you'd have to look at competitor analysis, entry to market, lots of different steps along the way. But you have to start with a successful product in the local market to start with. Any other questions, Sankriti?
Yes, ma'am. Like how international organizations shape our world?
They shape our world because everything we do in this day and knowledge and night is because of what happens in the world around us. Think of your music. How many people listen to only Oromia folk music? How many people only listen to local gate or bongate? Some people might, but how many people listen to pop music, rap music, music from all different countries and all over the world? That in itself is an example of global influences. These influences come to us. Computer games, TV, MTV, music, reality TV, Bollywood, movies, Hollywood, food. How many people have ever tried food that isn't just, masor tenga or just bhat dal? How many people have had food from outside that places? That's because of outside influences. It's everywhere around us. Your shoes. I can guarantee that you have things in your house that is made locally, but there's got to be something that is made outside. Different state, maybe still in India, but a different state. Similarly, people have products, perfumes, creams from different countries from around the world. Liquor, wine, chocolates come from different places around the world. Imagine not having Nestle chocolates. I'm a chocolate lover. I can't imagine my life if I don't have some sort of sweet chocolate in my life. Exactly like that. There are different things that you think about that you have in your life, and it's opening your own mind and your own education of what is in the world, broadening your own mind because of these external influences. Be open to what's going on in the rest of the world. Don't shut down.
Okay. There's another question. What are the main challenges that international organizations have?
Great question. So think again, start locally. What are the challenges that you had when you're setting up your local business? Maybe you have to raise money. Maybe you have to make the products. You have to make the shoes. Maybe you've made them and then nobody buys them. Or you make them and they fall apart, they break. Safety. Or you're organizing something with spices and the machine breaks and it hurts somebody. People can get injured. These are the same problems, exactly the same that can happen in international organizations. But when it goes internationally, when it goes outside your state, it becomes that much more important because it's more on a global audience. To get internationally, it's usually you hire staff members. You have to fulfill a legal paperwork. So there's a lot of legal paperwork. You just request that you want to mute yourselves, please. Thank you so much. So these are sort of the challenges. Every time people said, what happens in international organization? What is so hard about them? Think locally first. When you're going from Assam state to even a different state, There's more legal paperwork. You might have local state laws to abide by, that you have to pay a license fee, for example. It's the same thing. You have to look at what is required to go into a different area. There's a lot more legal paperwork, a lot more red tape sometimes to fill in as well. So it's literally what you have locally extended outwards.
There's another question that
Yes.
Digvijay Handik has said. He has read in social medias. He has read that social medias are trying to influence our minds to their own trends, and in a long run, through our private data. So do small business sectors really have a chance without inventory? And will the small businesses get connected to larger companies? I think these are two different questions.
Yeah. So I'll answer the first question first. So Digvijay, thank you for asking that. You make a very good point. So you have big companies. I'm going to give you Amazon as an example, right? Because Amazon is known, especially during the pandemic, to have helped lots of people, especially in the Western world, also in India as well, and in Assam, to help people with local deliveries. What happens on the other side of that is sometimes Amazon, because they have their own brand, they cut out local businesses. So local businesses can get completely drowned when a big multinational comes along. That's why corporate social responsibility is so important. Big companies now, by law, have to have a corporate sociability arm. They have to, by law, support a small business in the local vicinity that does good, and it helps the environment, it helps society, it helps people. It's the law, they have to do it. If there's a Microsoft or somebody, a big company in your jurisdiction, they also have to have a corporate social responsibility arm. So if you have a small business, if you know someone with a small business, you can absolutely approach a big company to partner with them and say, look, this is what I'm doing. Would you like to sponsor me? Would you like to fund this a little bit and build up a partnership with your company? So these are things that can happen and do happen, but because not many people know about them, when I ask the question, how many people have heard about it? Not many, if any at all. People don't know that. And knowledge is power. It's not about how you know it. It's about what you know and who knows that you know what you know. And it's because of things like that, we need to uplift ourselves as Assamese people, Northeastern people, to get out there on the same platform as other small companies around the world as well. So with that, Sankriti, I'm going to go on to the next slide, and we're going to take the other questions towards the end. Now,
Okay,
because
sure.
of the great question on why do we need these small companies, there are 3 specific reasons and 3 Ps, I like to call it, for corporate social responsibility. 3 Ps, and these are things that you guys should try to remember. 1 is people. Corporate social responsibility contributes to the educational and the social progress of people in some way. In some way or other, it could be through mentoring, it could be education, it could be a leadership program, whatever it is, you are helping people in some way. Number 2, planet. That's another one. Sometimes people do environmental work. They could do something to do with waste and pollution reduction. They could be saving on resources. They could be working out thinking, you know what, we don't have much electricity. We don't have much water. How can we best save these resources so they don't get wasted? That could be something. It helps your planet. It helps your local community. And then number 3, profit. Profit. At the end of the day, corporate social responsibility companies are businesses. If they don't have profit, they can't stay alive. They can't pay people to help them up. People don't get paid salaries, and then the company will have to shut down. So in order to make profit, they have to do this to earn adequate returns for their employed resources. Think of it like a plant that needs watering, it needs sunshine, and it has the roots. And each branch of a plant is people, planet, and profit. This is what makes you a company, and that's the difference with being a charity versus a company. A charity earns money from people donating. A company has to make its own money. You have to sell your own products to earn your own money so you can pay people that work for you to help out. But they work for helping people and they work for planning. These are corporate social responsibility companies. And that's what sets them apart from different companies out there. So When we talk about what is CSR, in order to survive, these have to be self-regulating business models. They work for the greater good. It's a term that some of you may have heard of, some of you won't, but it works for the greater good. You're thinking about helping a local population, but ultimately, even though it's making money because you have to stay alive, it's working to do good for other people. It's often an international organization as well, but it's helping others. What can it do? And corporate social responsibility companies, it helps the company actually become socially responsible. How is it being responsible and accountable to countries and to companies? So when you're being socially accountable, big companies, remember Microsoft you mentioned, it's helping them remember to be held accountable. It's one thing, a company saying, yes, we have a CSR arm, but there's another thing, seeing evidence. Okay, what companies have you worked with? How are you helping them? What have you done? Remember, big companies have board members, they have shareholders, they have public stakeholders in the company. They can see everything and they can completely ask questions. Who are you helping? What is the corporate social responsibility? So they are held accountable by us, the public, at any point in time. Any one of us, any one of you can ask a Microsoft, let me see how you are being corporately, socially responsible. So then the other thing about CSR, it's a philanthropic need, meaning they're giving to others. It can be an activist. If some people believe in a particular cause, they really want to help, they can be an activist in that cause. It can be charitable in nature. Now, there's a difference. It's not a charity, but it's charitable in nature. It's helping others. You're giving back to people, but you're charging for your services because it's still a company. Or it can be a volunteering or involvement in some sort of ethically oriented practice. What is an ethical oriented practice? Does anybody want to tell me in the chat function? An ethically oriented practice. Something that is ethical. What do we mean by that? In order to answer that question, think of the opposite. When you think that is really unethical, that business is so unethical, what are they doing? It's the opposite of that. So when you say, oh, that's very unethical, what do you mean by that? Ethical is really trying to help people out. Sankriti, does anybody write in the chat?
Not yet, ma'am.
No problem. Do you want to guess, Sankriti, what you think it means to have an ethical practice?
Ethically oriented, maybe it's like based on certain values, certain, we can say about certain cultures or like beliefs.
Yep.
Maybe, ma'am? Ma'am, what did you say?
Written.
Yeah. Which is morally acceptable.
Yeah.
And practices fair play.
Yeah.
And also, one thing that ethics is almost same with honesty.
Absolutely, 100%. Those guesses, what you said, Sankriti, what everybody wrote in chat is 100% accurate. When you think of what is ethical practice, you've got to think about it is it honest? Are you trying to cheat somebody? Is there any sort of corruption involved? You have to say no to all of these things. To be an honest practice, it has to be ethical. It does good for others, but not at the harm or the detriment of anybody else. It is to help other people. These are things, and they are administered and accounted for on a very strict basis internationally. When an international company decides they want to help you, if you're a small corporate social responsibility firm, they're going to look at your inside paperwork. They're going to see what other people have said. Are you ethical is the number one point that comes up. How are you helping others, but are you ethical yourself? Are you honest? Are you hardworking? What are you doing? So these are absolutely things there that is to do with being ethical as a company. Did somebody raise their hand?
Yes, ma'am. Kusumlata Basak has raised her hand. Do you want to say something, Kusumlata?
Well, we can save the questions to the end anyway. So maybe if Kusumlata thinks later on, she can ask. Okay. So now we've talked about, okay, why is corporate social responsibility important? What makes you corporate social responsibility? Now we're going to talk about how do you get involved in a company that has a corporate social responsibility arm. There are so many big companies. You talked about Microsoft. There's so many other ones. How can you get involved? Well, you have to get yourself out there. Remember, we talked about networking. We talked about communications a couple of sessions ago. It's the same thing with getting involved in an international organization that believes in corporate social responsibility. So what's the first thing that you do to do that? How will you get to know other companies? What do you do? Anyone want to take a guess or write in the chat? You can do your research, for starters. How can you research companies? One of my favorite ones is Google. Yep, you have to do a proper research online, absolutely. That's the first step you start. You can start online. If you know of local libraries that have information on companies, you can also go to libraries too. You can look it up. You can arrange meetings. Yes, absolutely. So these are absolutely ways. We talk about online. It could be Bing, Google, different search engines. LinkedIn, absolutely. Debashri, that's a very good point. LinkedIn is another one because you can see easily who of your contacts works in a company and look at the company, and it usually says something about how it's corporate socially responsible over there. The other way you can do it as well, you can look at press articles, you can look at the media. Usually companies love to show off when they have corporate social responsibility because people talk about their profits, but they love it when people talk about how they're helping people. Why? Because it helps them get in the news. People talk about them, they write newspaper articles. So that's always a good place to look as well. And what else is in the chat, Sankriti?
Yes, ma'am. Digvijay has mentioned that they mention about their own company in brief and their objectives.
Yes, absolutely. You can look at their own websites. Absolutely. What are they saying about it? What are they talking about? Their own objectives?
Online platform?
Yes, absolutely. So when people are doing so many virtual platforms now, how are they presenting their company? What are they doing? How are they evidencing it? Actions speak louder than words. Remember that. Writing something in your website is one thing. What are they doing about it? What evidence can you see? Are they doing live online platforms? Is there something in the media? Have they had some real positive test cases? Do your own research. And then number 2, the other one I'm going to bring up is establish your why. What are you personally passionate about? Because when you look at partnering with companies, when you look at joining international companies, you need to be passionate about what they believe in too. Is it environment? Is it health? Is it education? Is it helping women, girls, students, youth? What is it? Find something that meets what you're passionate about, because that's another driving force at what makes you successful. Remember to establish your why. Why are you doing it? And what keeps you motivated? What keeps you awake at night? What can you think, oh, I wish I could do something to help somebody or a company? That's the other way. And then if you are on the job market, if you're looking to apply, make sure that your CV, your resume, your curriculum vitae, your biodata is ready, and your cover letter. When you apply to companies for business, for jobs, whatever it is, if they're an international company, don't just say, I want to apply for your company because my skills are great, or I've studied something and I've done my research in something, that's why I want to apply. Talk about the goals, talk about that passion. Include a 1 sentence or 2 sentences on why, what drives you to that company. Remember, we talked about personal storytelling, and how that can captivate audiences. It's the same thing with the job market. And when an international audience, when an international recruiter looks at your job application, the same thing. They want to know, what is the passion that drives you? So make sure to include that as well. And then remember, you can get yourself out there. Things are a little bit in lockdown now, but when things are more open, you can actually go to campus. Sometimes you can have career fairs, networking events, word of mouth. Everybody hears an uncle or an auntie talking about things sometimes or other. Who do you know? LinkedIn, but who do you know that you know somebody works at somewhere that works at somebody who knows somebody that has an auntie or an uncle that's higher up, a manager of a certain company that you've always wanted to join. These are all absolutely big reasons and things that you should be doing. Sankruti, are there any more comments on that?
Yes, ma'am, there are, like freedom for creativity.
Freedom for creativity, yes.
That's it.
And you know why creativity is so important? Because it shows flexibility. It shows that you're not rigid. So when you mention freedom for creativity, that's actually a very good point to look for. It's a great question to ask someone, how are you creative? What are you doing to become creative? Because it shows that companies, if they're not rigid, they have room to grow. You don't ever want somebody that can't take that from you and have that room to grow. Excellent. So on that, I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about Uma again. Remember my company, Uma, we talked about in the very first week. Why? Because we also are a corporate social responsibility company. So we're a company, but we're mission driven. So what do? We're through strategy. So strategy is the thinking about how do you do things in the first place, through coaching, through mentoring, through training, through leadership development. We help with unshakable confidence. We build success stories, resilience and leadership, specifically in women and minority groups around the world. So in that case, that is our mission statement. We help people in some way. We're trying to help people progress. We build leadership. We build confidence. We build that absolute inner drive that helps people progress in the future. Similarly, when there are other corporate social responsibility companies, if you have a company, if you have an idea and you're thinking of setting up, what is it you're thinking of doing? How is it helping society? What is the evidence that you're already doing that? So remember those things. Remember those 3 Ps that we talked about earlier on that note. In our case, in Uma, we have global outreach too. So we are headquartered in New York, but we have outreach all over the US, in Europe, Africa, Middle East, Israel, Oman, Russia, rest of Europe as well, Australia in Melbourne, and now across India as well. So things like that show that we're corporate social responsibility. We have that global outreach. And the other thing, and a question you guys asked, what are the challenges you could face with an international organization, is how do you keep your offerings unique? For example, if I'm doing a leadership development to the youth of Assam in the Northeast, it's going to be very, very different the way I portray it, the way I teach it to somebody, a student in Russia or a schoolgirl in Zambia in Africa. So you have to think about your local challenges and the local market that you're in. It's not one size fits all. You, as the company, have to cater. How are you going to change it? How are you going to customize it for the local audience? Because only then, once you've done your research, is it going to be helpful for other people? And some examples of that are, helping people by mentoring. Some of you guys might do that naturally without realizing it when you help to mentor people, helping people. So for example, at Uma, what we do a lot of mentoring for women survivors of domestic violence, especially during the pandemic when everybody was in lockdown. Numbers around the world shot up. So that's specifically we help. We have members of our company that specifically go out there and help and mentor folks. We do a lot of work with high school girls in specifically in low-income neighborhoods as well. And also those folks that have served in the military, army, veterans, and their spouses, people that people take for granted, that forget about them. When they come back from helping their country, it's very hard for them to get jobs. It's very hard for them because they're now forgotten. They're back and they're like everybody else. So we specifically help them as well and helping them find their way. So that's literally a snapshot of corporate social responsibility. So Sankriti, I want to go back now onto the questions. I know we have some more questions on the topic. So I wanted to go back on the questions now.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. We have one question from Digvijoy. Is this why company establishments in different countries have representatives from the corresponding countries?
And that's why, exactly. That is exactly why. So remember, from a company perspective, they're thinking, how can they stay alive? How can they stay afloat? They hire people. They want to pay salaries. When the salaries are good, they can pay bonuses. So that's their first priority. But the way they're doing it is by helping other people. So when they come into India as another market, when they decide to set up an office or a factory in Assam, it's usually because they want to help the local people, but they also want to help with job creation. Anytime you open up a new office, helps the job creation of that local population because you've given them skill sets and jobs as well. But in order to be successful, to your question, they have to market it accordingly. There's no point of giving job market to somebody that has no clue and there's no training to help them either. So that's exactly one of the reasons it's done for. Great question.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so next question we have from Digvijoy Handik, that what would you prefer, follow a trend or make your own trend?
Follow a trend or make your own trend. I love that. I think, when you're starting off in business, it depends. That's a good question because when you start off in business, it's good to follow others that are influencers that are being successful. What works for them? What doesn't work? What are they doing good? What sort of media articles are doing? How are they portrayed out there? What products are doing? How are they marketing themselves? So it's good to keep following what others are doing. But ultimately, if you're going to be a business person, you need to set your unique presence. You have to have your personal branding. So yes, you can follow other trends to keep what's going on, but don't copy the trends. You create your own trend. Follow what's going on, but you have to keep your own brand. You make your unique presence known and you create your own trend. And that's exactly what it should be about.
So next question we have from Ranjit Kakoti. He is telling a very good morning to you from Assam. And,
good morning.
He has been involved with a very good initiative. That is, they are trying to save the last part of a pristine forest of Vishwanath. I think as you have heard about it, Vishwanath, there is a reserve forest which is known as Bihali Reserve Forest. Now it is under various threats. So they are continuously trying to save the forest. Now that they wanted an international attention for this forest and to save the last part of the forest patch and the biodiversity. So they wanted your help. So how can you help them to save the forest? And is there any sources which will help to save the last part of the forest of Vishwanath?
That's such a great question and such a powerful mission that you have undertaken. So I think everybody, I applaud you for doing that. Well done for doing it. First thing is don't give up hope. There is something out there. And then what you're going to do. So we talked about corporate social responsibility today. Your mission is that. It's mission driven. You're helping the livelihoods and saving resources, saving the planet, saving our local vicinity. What would be good for you to do is look at local presence of any multinational companies in your local area. They will have corporate social responsibility funding. In particular, do your searching, look on their websites, have a look at any of those that do things that care about the environment. They always have a contact email address somewhere there. If they don't have it on the local Assam-based site, look at their local Delhi presence, look at the international presence and say, this is what I'm doing. There is a local presence here. I would like to get in touch with the corporate social responsibility department. And you can absolutely approach them. You write them a little email or a cover note to tell them exactly what you're doing, why it's important, who are you helping, how does it help the company? Because if they're going to help you, how does it help them? So they need to be vested in saving resources, biodiversity. This is something that you need to be searching and looking for. And then you think, this is why I would like to partner, and I would like to find out if there are any funding that you have from corporate social responsibility that could really help in the work that I do. So this is on you. You've got homework to do now. You're going to be looking at the companies, different companies that have the multinational presence, either in Assam or a little bit localized. Look at some of the other cities that help around India. And then you find which ones of those care about the environment, that care about biodiversity. Then you target them. You draft a cover letter. Don't just send it straight away. You draft it. Does it sound personal? Does it talk about what is the problem that you're solving, how you're doing it, and how does it help the company? When you've done that, you can email like a little smaller version, like a small introductory paragraph, couple of sentences to the person on the company email address, and then you attach a PDF version of a cover letter with your website or whatever you're doing in your company, a brochure online, some information about what you're doing, and you send it. Sometimes people don't respond. Don't be disheartened. You just keep trying. Somebody doesn't respond, you try other companies, and then every 2 weeks, you just ask them again. Phone up the company. There should be a phone number somewhere. You phone them up and say, this is what you're doing. I would like to be put in touch with the corporate social responsibility wing or the ESG wing of what they're doing. So that, I hope that's helped answer your question.
I definitely think that has really helped him. So next we have another question from Rajiv Roy. He has asked how to set up our own company or how to commence a business.
Absolutely, great question. So you can start a company. You don't have to formalize it just by doing something straight away. What is your idea? What are you thinking of doing? And why? The first thing you look at is there a problem you're trying to solve? Usually there needs to be a problem. Like, oh, you know what? I'm wearing these shoes, but I have wide feet, and they're always, I can find that whatever company is, they break after a month because my feet are too wide. Or, you know what? I do a lot of walking and I'm always in the fisheries or doing things by the Brahmaputra. I always go to Majuli Island or whatever it is. My feet are getting wet. I need to have some shoes that don't get wet, don't get spoiled straight away. Whatever it is, think about what is the problem that you're trying to solve? How does it help somebody? And then you figure out what is that solution for it. Once you've done that, you don't have to form the company straight away. First, you have a test case. What are you doing? What is your product? Test it on a couple of friends of yours, people that you know might need it. See what they say. When they've done that, you ask them, how much would you be willing to pay for this? Whatever that is that you've built, whatever the services you're providing, whatever the product is. And then you have to play around with different price points. You might be too expensive. You might be too cheap. You have to play around and you find a price point. After that, then you think, okay, now I know I've got a product. It's helping people. It's working. Okay, I need to raise some money now because I want to open a factory. Or I want to be able to make materials and buy materials to make materials because I think I want to see how it does it. But don't do it too big. Do it small to start with. You do that and you have an idea. Open up a LinkedIn, a company LinkedIn, a company Facebook, a company Instagram. Start building, taking pictures of your products, putting it out there. Start building, influence. Start building kind of hype, creating people to know who you are. Then you can start looking at, okay, how do I formulate a company? Now, in Assam, it might be very different, but you would likely go to the local, lawyer or little accounting office to try and set up an actual company name and register your name. Make sure nobody has that name. And then over time, you can look for a domain name. You might want to get a website or something and just keep it simple. I always say keep it simple, keep it small. Remember, less is more. Don't straight away spend lots of money to do two big things. Start always small when you do this.
Thank you, ma'am. We again have many questions. Like Tridiman Talukdar has asked, minimum how much money is required to set up a company?
Doing, I always tell people, start with what you have. I tell people it's up to you how you do it. If you're starting a company, it's sometimes a good idea. If you're having a salaried job right now, keep that going because it's starting to pay your wages. When you start your own company, when you are an entrepreneur, it's literally becomes your whole life. You're giving everything to that, everything. And it takes a lot. You'll spend less time with your family. You'll spend less time on everything else. So it takes a lot. So make sure, if possible, that you have some sort of an income coming in, at least to start, unless you're on your feet. So it depends on the company. If, for example, you are producing a product, you might need a factory to think, what is the cost for that? Can you do it very small? Do you need a big room? Do you need to pay people to run machinery, to be there, security guard, to really what you're doing? Or can you do this from your house to start with? So think about saving costs. The first thing you always want to do is save costs. Don't just go and get a business loan straight away unless you've already tried your product and you have that test case. Always have your test case to start with and do that. So don't go running and think what money do you need straight away. Think about what it is you have, how can you build it, and really what is it you need to go to the next level.
So next question we have from Namita, that how long, means like what is the minimum time required to start and with which mandatory categories?
I'm so Sankriti. Can everyone just mute themselves if you're not speaking? That's possible.
Okay, ma'am. Just a minute. Okay, ma'am. Am I audible now?
Now you are. Yeah, no, because I could hear background. Somebody else was talking as well. Could you repeat the question, please, Sankriti?
Yeah, sure. Yes,
Thank you.
Definitely, ma'am. Okay. So the question goes like this, that how much minimum time is required and with which mandatory categories? Maybe she is asking about of starting a company.
Okay. So minimum
time and the mandatory categories.
Okay. So basically, in terms of experience, I like to tell people it really depends. Technically, anybody can start a company anytime. You can walk in, you can register a company name, and you have a company. Anyone can do it. You don't need any experience. But there's a difference with having that and being successful. So what I like to tell people is get some experience in doing something. For example, if you want to, I'm going back to the shoe example again. If you want to make a shoe, get experience. Don't just say, I want to make a shoe, I'm going to open a shoe company. What experience do you have? What do you know about materials? What do you do about manufacture? What do you know about sizing? What do you know about, getting parts together and any regulations are out there? Do your research first. Make a shoe yourself by your own hands without any factory and anything. You get the materials. You find out what does that process entail? How are that? What are the problems you've come in to make it yourself? You become an expert in your area first. Because then you're going to think, okay, what is wrong with this now? How can I change it? One way of doing it is product research. You might buy another company's shoe and you experiment with that and say, what are the things that are wrong with this? And then you try and make your own. If you're doing something that is service-based, you might be from an education background and you're doing some sort of a educational consulting or workshop or something. You want to do the same thing. You might be thinking, you know what? I go to all of these lectures, I go to all of these educational leadership courses, and I really don't like them. I fall asleep, they're boring, I leave, and I don't remember what's happening. So I want to do my own. That's fantastic. So you find out what is everything that went wrong with the bad examples. You write it down, and then you make your own course, write it down, and you think, okay, I'm going to present my own course. What are things that I would like to see? And then you find a few students, friends, family members, and you do it with them. No charges involved at this stage. This is your test case. That is your test market. And then slowly you start to branch out and you offer your services to others. And once you've done that, you have experience under your belt. When you've had your experience, you're then in a position to say, okay, I'm going to register a company. I know I have experience. I know there are people that like my services. I know there's a market. Somebody will buy my services. Remember, if you're a company, you're making a service. Somebody has to buy that service from you to make it a company, make that a business. So you've got to make sure it's give and take. You might have to adjust your pricing accordingly as well. Okay, next question, somebody.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. There are. So Digvijay is telling that he is into making music. So can you tell something about it that you know, a heads up or something?
Making music, I love that. Don't ever lose your passion, number one. And number two, think about out there, research, Digvijay, what the music makers that are out there. There's so many different types of music makers. Production agencies, the ones that make videos, the one that do the digital footage, the ones that actually make musical instruments. So you've got to think about, what do you mean? What is your area by making music? What are you doing? How are you going to differentiate yourself? So you need to see who else is out there, who else is doing exactly what you are doing, right? How are you different to them? How are they making money? What are they selling to make money? Remember, if you're going to make this a business, you need to earn enough to ultimately pay your way. There's two different things. There's starting something off as a hobby, and then you think, you know what, I really enjoy this, and wow, people are starting to buy my services. I'm going to make this a company. Versus, I'm actually going to make this into a company that one day might be a multinational. Who knows? But in order to do that, think exactly what is it you're doing in the music industry, and look at other companies that are doing the same thing or very similar. Then look at big companies. How do they contract with small companies? How can they potentially use your services for what they're doing? How can like an MTV or a different recording studio use your services and partner with you? Think about things like that.
Yes, ma'am. So next question we have is like, okay, Namita has asked about that you have answered her question. So she has asked that minimum background preparation with what mandatory measures?
So here's the thing. It depends where you are in the world. In the old days, and I'm saying in the old days, it's we're talking 20, 30 years ago, so not that long ago. There used to be a case that if you're going into finance or entrepreneurship or business role, you have to have studied some sort of commerce degree, business degree, finance degree, mathematics. I will tell you from experience, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't. What I would say is you need experience in the area that you want to be. You have to be an expert in what you're doing. If you are going to start a company that sells greenhouses, you want to be a zoological expert in something, right? In order to do that, you need to be an expert in zoology. You might be an expert in how do plants grow. You might be an expert in little things. So you have to be an expert in your field. You can absolutely have a science or a music or a sports background, but you have to be an expert. Next, and this is what I found with entrepreneurs a lot, you have to find out how to monetize it, right? To monetize it, you can use real life examples. You don't even have to have studied it, but little things about, you know what, I'm trying to sell, I'm making necklaces, I'm making beads, or I'm making handbags. How can people buy it from me? You know what? You can put pictures on Instagram and you can have a shop on there. You can have a Shopify and suddenly people are buying. You don't need a degree for that. You need to risk take. You need to be, just going out there and put your services on and see what works and what doesn't work. Things like that. But what I will tell you, it really, really helps later on if you're going to expand your business, if you're going to start to hire people, to know where to look. And there are degrees, there are postgraduate courses. I teach them as well. There are courses that actually help people know that, legal things. So it's really, really helpful to know from a human resources perspective, a legal perspective, finance perspective, what you should need to know about the ins and outs of setting up a company. There are organizations that help. There are lawyers, there are accountants that help, but just research it yourself. There are online courses you can do for free on places like LinkedIn, YouTube nowadays. Use what's out there for free right now to educate yourself. If you want to go into postgraduate education, like doing an MBA, for example, these courses, and I teach so many of these classes, literally are all about exactly what we're talking about, the fundamentals of leadership that you guys have attended, exactly what the basis of those courses are. Then it goes into more detail. It goes more to analysis of competitors. Competitor analysis is basically just seeing who else is doing what you're doing, what's good and what's bad about what they're doing. Is it too expensive? Is it too cheap? How does their Instagram account look? Do I like the look of that? Will I buy it? That's basically it, but you're doing it on a formal level. So I would say don't be fazed by your degree discipline. Don't be fazed by your major. Think about how are you an expert? How are you going to grow the business? A lot of it is increasing your own mind. So I hope that's answered your question a bit. Yes, it helps to have a certain degree, but you don't need to.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions, but if anyone wants to ask, they are free to ask.
Great questions, by the way. I loved the way you guys are thinking. It's so important to think along these lines. And I always say to everybody that you have Assamese blood, you have Northeastern blood, you can do anything you set your mind to. So whether it's entrepreneurship, corporate social responsibility, working for multinationals, making changes that are recognized in your local population that the rest of the world can take note of, it's all up to you, and you can all go out there and do it. The world is really in your fingertips.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Great.
Anyone who has raised their hand can ask if they want anything to ask.
Sorry, Sanjit, I missed what you said there.
Ma'am, I just told that those who have raised their hands can ask if they wanted to ask anything. Yeah, ma'am, but there is another two questions. That
Sure.
What's the role of philosophy in international organization?
Philosophy is needed not just in international organizations, it's to do with life. Philosophy is your step forward. What is your outlook on what is your philosophy? What do you believe in? It goes back to the ethics again. So philosophy, first, you have to be grounded in your local philosophy. What do you believe in? You work out what your personal branding is. What do you believe in? That's going to shape then your local, your family situation. That same philosophy, you then expand to go to the rest of the world. You see? So your international philosophy is exactly the same as your local philosophy. The difference being is that you curate your local services so it's more relevant to different audiences, but it has to follow your same philosophy because that's where your branding comes from. You stand for something. There's a mission, there's a vision behind what you're trying to do. That vision is your philosophy. So that vision has to carry through and come through strongly in your marketing, in your materials, in the way you produce your products and what your services are, like that.
Yes, ma'am. We have another question that's for you. That Digvijay has said he likes how you keep everything positive in this session. So, were there any lows for you?
Thank you for saying that. I love that. I mean, I think in life, I'm a very positive person. I teach confidence, I build confidence. So for me to keep everything positive is something I love doing. But yeah, we've all had lows. I think even in my own life, when I set up Uma, when I've transitioned careers, when I've relocated, absolutely there've been lows. When I first moved to New York and I left London, I became homesick. I didn't know what that even was, that term. And then I remembered back to how my parents left their homeland. They left Assam many years ago and came to London. So there were always, for me, that was a big turning point in my life that opened up my eyes to think, you know what? I feel sad. I'm leaving my family and my friends. But there's two decisions at that point. One, you keep on being sad. You keep on thinking, you know what? I'm sad. Or you make the most out of it. And I made the most out of it. You know what? I'm going to learn from my new home. I'm going to make this my home, and I'm going to own the city of New York and make it mine. And that's exactly the attitude I take with my life, with my business, in everything I do. And I think that's a great philosophy for you guys too. Don't be scared that you have low days. It's natural. But what you do from that is your reaction that you are in control of. Change it into something positive. Have a smile on your face and take positivity forward.
Sankranti.
I think there is, yes, sir.
Sankranti. Yeah, but it has a relation to that query. I just want to ask Rita. Sometimes, not sometimes, very often, our students, they have to face a question in many of the interviews, even in the competitive exam, interviews, that tell us something about your weakness. So to face that query in a intelligent way, if you can give some clue to our students, very often they face that question that tell us something about your weakness.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. I love interview questions, especially like that, because the whole point of interview questions is to find out about you. It's supposed to be a dialogue. So when you go into an interview, number one, don't treat it like it's one way versus another way. Treat it like a conversation, number one. Because the first thing when you go to an interview, it's natural to be nervous because we feel like somebody's just questioning us. Even with Vivas, when I've, submitted thesis and you're doing a Viva, you kind of like, you stand there and like, you're thinking, what if I forget? What if someone asks me a question? Treat it like a conversation. Your mindset, change your mindset. So the first thing is treat it like a conversation. They're trying to understand you, but you are also trying to understand them. It has to fit both ways. So when somebody asks you about your weaknesses, we all have weaknesses, but make it into a positive. Think about it. Why are they asking you that question? Do they really want to know what you're bad at? Like, why are they trying to find out to give you a job? They're trying to find out, okay, everyone has strengths. Everyone has something. What can you work on? So what do companies care about? They care about, are you a problem-solving person? Do you crumble if put under pressure, right? If somebody gave you something and a deadline, do you just collapse or do you deal with it? If somebody gives you a problem, do you collapse or do you try to find a solution? It may not be the right one, but what do you do when somebody gives you a problem? So when somebody asks you what your weakness is, they don't care about something that you might have failed an exam a year ago. They care about what do you do with that weakness. So what you're trying to do when you present your response is in a problem-saving way. So if somebody asks me, and I'm going to make this up, I'm going to pretend I'm a student in zoology and uncle is interviewing me for a role in his department. Clearly, I have no zoology background. So my weakness is that I don't know anything about zoology, but I'm applying for this job and I think I'm going to be best for the role. Why? Because I have a business background, I have a leadership background, but I love plants, I love wildlife, and I want to learn. And in my view, the biggest thing, the strength that anyone can have is the willingness to learn and never stop learning. So yes, although my weakness is that I have no clue about zoology, my biggest strength is that I will turn that into learning and I'm going to do something about it and I want to help you build a department. You see what I just did? I knew nothing about a topic, but I made it into something that was a vision about the future. So I gave an exaggerated example. Similarly, when you present a weakness, present it in a way that is solving a problem. A weakness could be another one I'll give you is one of my weaknesses is that I say yes to everything. So when somebody gives me, I'm a people pleaser. I like to make everyone happy. So then I get stressed and I get pressurized. So what I've started to do is I've started to make a calendar. I've started to make a list and I've started to prioritize my days. So I still get to the different goals, but I tell people that, yes, I can do it, but I won't be able to do it for another week. Is that okay? So you see what I just did? Again, I've given an example of an actual weakness, but I've also problem solved. I've told someone that this is not going to be a problem for you. This is what you do. With every single one of you in all of your lives, you can't go into an interview and say, oh, I have no weaknesses. That's a lie. Think of something, anything, but then how have you overcome it? That's what it is. Weakness is actually a positive for the future. What does it show? That you can learn from your mistakes. And that is the number one thing that employers care about.
Very nice response. I think students will get benefit from out of it.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, ma'am. There's one question that should we be optimistic even though we don't have the required set of skills, but we are chosen?
So I think that's a great question. Here's the thing. Remember back to a couple of sessions ago where we talked about practice makes perfect. We talked about imposter syndrome. That is basically where you know you can do something, but you just don't have that confidence. You have that self-doubt. What are the ways to get over that? You practice, you rehearse, you know exactly what your topic is about. So you learn your topic inside out. You know it so well. And then you think about that topic. What can you do differently around that? It's the same thing when you apply for a job. It's the same thing if somebody asks you that in an interview, that you don't have to know everything about a topic, but you know your area really well and be willing to learn about something else. So I hope that answers your question. It's all about practicing. Don't go to a situation where you don't know anything, right? If you know there's a particular job you're applying for and it lists 3 skills, only 3 skills, and you have 2 of them, you can make the decision to apply, even though you only have 2 of the skills, but you might think, what can I do to gain experience in that 3rd skill? Have a look at that and think, what do you need to do? Are there any online courses? Is there a module? Is there a book you can read? Is there some sort of a show you can watch that helps to educate you? Learn those things. Try to get yourself skilled up. But remember, if you don't have one of the skills, as long as you have the other 2, it can really work. Where there's a will, there's a way. Make sure you practice as well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I think this is the end of the question session. So,
thank you all for wonderful questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your beautiful words, your inspiring words, and really this session was very much helpful even for me. So thank you so much, ma'am, for your constant support and your patience that has led to this beautiful session. So thank you so much, ma'am. So now moving on to the next agenda, I would like to request, we have amongst us Dr. Balin Kumar Bhuiya sir, who is the dynamic principal of Nagaon Girls College. So I request sir to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Honorable Resource Person Rita Kakoti Shah, respected Head of the Department, different dignitaries from Geological Society of Assam, IQAC Coordinator Ranjit Goa, Sandeep Chaudhary, Sankranti Devi, and my dear participants. It had been indeed a wonderful brainstorming program designed by Rita Kakoti Shah for our young students. It is a solid and positive step to foster our youth as change makers in the country. I take this opportunity to thank and offer my sincere gratitude to Rita Kakoti Shah for her great initiative. I would be more than happy to have such initiative from your end once again. This would have been impossible to organize such an wonderful program without the support and initiation from Professor Jugen Chandra Kolita, Head of the Department, Zoology, Department of Guwahati. He is a great friend of our college and always with us and did everything which I have been hoping for years. I offer my sincere thanks to Professor Jugen Chandra Kolita. I have the privilege to say thanks to all the members of Zoological Society of Assam. I also would like to thank Guwahati University for their great support. Especially, I would like to thank Sankranti, who has played a great role as an anchor. I would like to thank Professor Ranjit Borua, uh, IQAC Coordinator, Nagaon Girls College, Dr. Sandeep Chaudhary of Department of Zoology, Nagaon Girls College, and the uh, teachers of my college. And lastly, I would like to thank all the participants who have joined and made this program successful. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful words. So next we have amongst us the president of ZSA, our respected Shri Priya Patel, of course, sir. So I would now like to request sir to say a few words.
Thank you, Sankranti. Very good evening. Respected Principal, Mr. Bhuya, respected Head of the Department of Zoology, Professor Jugen Kolita, I'm really delighted to associate with you. I must congratulate the Nagaon Girls College Authority to organize such a very dynamic and recent and latest updated topic for the development of youth leadership. And I was thankful and my sincere gratitude to Rita Kakoti Sa for being with us for the last 4 days, 4 evenings. For her, it is morning, 4 morning. She has spent with us for the development of the students of Assam. She has dealt with a topic very sincerely and very thoroughly so that our students, even who are not in corporate sector or in any other entrepreneurship development program, is understood very nicely what the leadership is and what are the qualities needed to be a leader in the development of the state. Not only in the company or corporate sector, but in other sectors also, you must have some leadership quality. And by listening to Rita Kakoti Sa's lectures, I think our youth will be able to lead our state, lead our society, lead our home, lead our college, lead our university, lead our research in a fruitful manner and very well manner. I must thank Rita Kakoti once again, as because she is from Assam, and I hope in future, as she is owner of the company, she must be looking for her profit. But in spite of the profit, she has the CSR, the corporate social responsibility. And with this corporate social responsibility, I think Rita will be able to take some care personally for the people of Assam, for the youths of Assam, for the students of Assam. Thank you very much. Thank you once again to all the organizers, Sankranti and other IQAC coordinator and other fellow who are associated with organizing this webinar for Nagaon Girls College. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
sir, for your beautiful words. So now we have amongst us Professor Jogen Chandra Kalita, sir, who is the man behind this particular, all the webinars and all the beautiful sessions that we have, who is the head Department of Zoology, Guwahati University, and the General Secretary of Zoological Society of Assam. So I would like to request sir to say a few words.
Okay, thank you, Samkranti. Actually, Rita is very positive. As the principal of Nagaon Girls College, Dr. Mia has already mentioned that it's a unique and wonderful program. For the first time in the history of Assam, we have been organizing with the support of a girls' college. So there lies the power of the girls of Assam and entire Northeast. And ZSA President, Honorable Lokor sir, has mentioned about the entire program, how lucidly and very effectively she was conducting for 4 days, bringing America as an American citizen, most powerful nation in the world. It's not easy for her to give time like this. But in spite of all her busy schedule, she was giving us time not for 1 hour, many, many hours for 4 long sessions. And background, her preparation. She is very busy with her company and also with her family and relatives and host of guests because they are very popular. Dr. Kakoti family is a very popular family. And Rika Kakoti Shah, Mr. Shah family is also very, very popular and having lots of friends and families and relatives. So therefore I know, I can understand her stress, but with a smile, she agreed. Yes, Jogen uncle or Jogen dada, we will do. Why? Because people of Assam, the greater Assam, she always used to say, greater Assam, entire Northeast, people are wonderful. And we have everything. But what we do not have, that is leadership. We very often talk when she was very young, a student of King's College London. At that time on, we very often talk about lack of leadership in the minds of the people of the state of Assam. Wherever we see everything we have, why the problems then? Problem is that we are least capable of managing our wealth. That may be natural wealth, water, minerals, oil, everything, or that may be human resources. And when in Upper Assam, oil fields were in fire, it took not only 1 month, it took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months to control the fire. And lives were lost. And people are now still hesitating because they were not given the compensation. What does that mean? That reflected the lack of leadership on the part of the concerned authorities. Same is the case in education also. I always wish that all the teachers should be the best of the best leaders in the world. Political leaders are not the only leaders in the world. We, the people who are in the society, especially in education, entrepreneurship, and resource mobilization, and those people should be the leaders. And most importantly, Rita wanted to talk only to the people, those who are inside the institution, like Dr. Bolin Bhuyan's college. Why I selected Dr. Bolin Bhuyan's college? Perhaps he didn't know. It is because whenever you visit his college, it's so lively. IQAC coordinator Dr. Borua will speak, and Sandeep Smorotituza, and many all faculties. They are wonderful people. Even if you want to go to girls' hostel, and Madam Warden will treat you like what you cannot even dream of. At any moment you go, so lively. And the girls, if you ask them, can you sing? They will sing immediately. If you ask them to speak, they can make a speech. If you ask them to lead, they will lead. So therefore, our Honorable Education Minister, when he wanted to visit the college in the midnight, they are girls, all the girls, welcome our Honorable Education Minister under the leadership of Dr. Bolin Bhuya. Dr. Bhuya, I am telling in front of you because it is coming from my heart. Therefore, I selected your college to lead in the history of the education of Assam and Northeast. For the first time, we talk about leadership program directly from the most powerful nation in the world, that is United States of America. People do many things here, locally or nationally, but this is international. Today I can see maybe 130 persons are still there in Google Meet. Many may be in YouTube channel, YouTube streaming. But you think of future, because Rita is our future. Rita is positive as our president of JDSA, principal of Nagaon Girls College, including Sankranti and many organizing committee members. They believe in you, Rita. I am telling you, people of Assam, believe in you, and we wish that you have a very healthy life, healthy family, and a long future. And you will be successful in any way, because the way you speak, the way you motivate, the way you make the queries, it's so intelligently performed and so unique. So therefore, our hearts are totally full. And when hearts, is full, then we have few words to express. So with this, once again, I request all young friends of Assam and Northeast, and we have this great nation, India. Please very carefully listen to her. Talk to yourself right from now. What she told us, and talk to you yourself now. And then you can lead anywhere in the world. As Vivekananda said, you will have to take risk. If you win, you can lead. If you cannot win, you can guide. So thank you so much. Thank you, Sankranti Keshav, Jugandhar Jyoti, Jyoti Smita, and all I cannot name because it's a big team after you, Rita, to make this stage ready. There are many people, but please remember, many of them are girls, because India is having that empowerment, women empowerment, and you are the right person to start. This is the beginning. And finally, I want to request Dr. Bhuya that this course, Youth Fundamental Leadership course, this will be one additional, that is called add-on course, certificate course, and that will be started for the first time in the entire Northeast in Girls College, Nagaon. Nagaon Girls College will start this under the leadership of Dr. Bhuya, and Guwahati University will help you. And Rita, you are our academic advisor to Nagaon Girls College. And our Dr. Bhuya will recommend that in the governing body meeting. Their governing body is very excellent people. So in the governing body, they will take a decision, they will transmit it to you. You please accept, and you are the academic advisor for this type of leadership program, and you help our girls to grow, and the students and youth of the entire Northeast to work very, very hard. You have really motivated all of us. I am also getting motivated by you. Thank you so much. Our regards to, Dada and your mom and all of your family members. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your really inspiring and motivating words. So, as we have come to this end of the 4-day long session, so I would like to request to Shri Ranjit Borwa, sir, who is the IQAC coordinator of Nagaon Girls College, to kindly offer the vote of thanks on behalf of the entire organizing committee. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sankranti. As Sankranti has rightly said, that we have almost at the end of this 4-day International Youth Leadership Development Program titled Fundamentals of Leadership. All the 4 sessions have been very wonderful because of our wonderful resource person, Rita Kakoti Shah ma'am, born and brought up in England and settled in USA, but still she has so much interest in Assam and Northeast. Her passion for this region, we are very much proud of you. We are very much thankful to you, ma'am. She has discussed various aspects of leadership, from presentation to leadership skill, and today she also talked about international organization and corporate social responsibility. But whatever, another important thing that attracts me most is that she has repeatedly emphasized that we should convert our weakness to our future strength. And if the participants and our students can follow this, then certainly each and every one of us will be successful in our future life. So thank you very much, Rita ma'am. Jogen Kakoti sir, Kolita sir has already mentioned that in spite of her busy schedule, she has spent a lot of time with us, almost 8 hours, spreading over 4 days, 4 weeks. And we are very, very much thankful to ma'am that she has given so much time for us, and she has delivered a lot of things. She has impressed us in her various ways, and I am very much sure that all the students, all the participants who are present here, they are highly benefited from your deliberations. Thank you, ma'am. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Dinesh Chandra Kakoti sir and Bhavani Kakoti ma'am, parents of Rita Kakoti, because they were also present on various occasions with us. And we are also very much fortunate to hear a beautiful song from Bhavani Kakoti ma'am. As Jogen Kolita sir has already told several times, we tried, but ultimately on the second day we were in a position to hear this song, and we are very much thankful to them also. I take this opportunity to thank Priyabrata Lohkar sir. He has been always there from the very beginning till end, all the 4 sessions. He observed everything minutely, and I thank Priyabrata Lohkar sir. He is the president of Zoological Society of Assam. Thank you very much, sir. I also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Bolendra Kumar Das sir, who is the working president of Zoological Society of Assam. He has also been the source of inspiration for us. I take this opportunity to thank our principal sir, Dr. Bolin Kumar Bhuya. He is also a very inspiring person. He always inspires us to move forward, to do new things, plan new things. And we thank Bolin Kumar Bhuya sir also for his inspiration and constant support. As Sankranti has already said, and our principal sir has also mentioned, that Jogen Chandra Kolita sir has always been the main spirit behind all the positive endeavors in our college, as also in the Department of Zoology. He is also the moving spirit behind the Research Scholar Forum, Department of Zoology. So I thank Jogen Kolita sir also for his inspiration and constant support. I also take this opportunity to thank all the participants, because without their active participation, without their active involvement, these sessions, this program could not have been successful. From the day one, from the very beginning, because of the approach of Rita Kakoti ma'am, ultimately most of the participants have remained very active. We have shared different things. We have learned many things from each other. So I thank all the participants. Thank you all. Also, on behalf of the organizing committee, I thank all other people who are involved in Zoological Society of Assam, Department of Zoology, Guwahati University, and also Nagaon Girls College Fraternity, who have supported directly or indirectly in this program. And I also thank our Sankranti. And then there are two people who are working behind the screen, Sandeep and Keshav. They have also supported in making this program a successful one. So thank you, everyone. Thank you all. Over to you, Sankranti.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful vote of thanks. So, as we have come to the exact end of this particular session, the feedback form has also been given. So, I request all the participants to fill up the feedback form. And since it is the end, so I think the session is being ended here.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you so much, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. It was
Rita.
wonderful working with you, ma'am.
This particular course we will introduce from Nagaon Girls College. Then it will go to many colleges of India. First, let us start from Nagaon Girls College.
Yeah.
It's a great college, and principal is very dynamic. It's a A-grade college. You know that A grade is very important in India.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult to get. But their college is already A grade. And being a girls' college, they have higher importance in the Indian national context. So we are very happy to connect you and be with us all the time. And also, okay, you'll have to spare some time for other colleges too in future.
Absolutely.
Particularly of Northeast India. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Dr. Bolin Bhuya is smiling because he's so happy today. I can see his face, and okay, his facial expression indicates how much happy he is, including his college family. Our JDC presidents are always positive, very thoughtful, and Sankranti, you are doing, you are learning so many things from Rita. To working together,
Doing well, very well done. Really.
Yeah. Keshav is so.
Thank you so much, sir.
Keshav Jidi
Koldia sir,
Bora,
namaskar. Koldia sir, namaskar. Myself, Vipul Soikia from North Lakhimpur College.
Oh, Vipul Soikia, very
Yes,
so
sir.
nice.
Really,
so-
sir, very nice program, sir, and very much impressive, sir. Actually, the Rita ma'am, I have to say about her patience, her mood of lecture, her response to us means towards the audience also very much impressive, sir. That's why I just tell you, sir. Very much
Really?
thankful to you. Priya Bhatta sir also there. Sir, namaskar labo.
No,
Vipule কৈছো, sir, আপনার student.
Thank you. Thank you.
খুব সুন্দৰ program, sir. অত্যন্ত ভাল লাগিলে।
আৰু তেখেতসকলৰ বহুত potential আছে যিসকলে ইয়াত জইন কৰিছে Rita, these people are wonderful people. And Vipul is talking from North Lakhimpur, that is autonomous college. You see in Assam, we have only 3 out of 600 colleges. We have only 3 autonomous colleges. Nagaon College is one of them, North Lakhimpur is another, and JB College in Jorhat. So all these colleges are developing because of the dynamic nature of the principals and the college family. And your confidence level, really wonderful, Rita. So nice, yeah.
Very much thank you to Rita ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to reiterate that I may be delivering the lectures, but it's the team, it's everybody here that is part of the atmosphere. You know, Sankriti, everybody, the team, Jogan Uncle, everybody's been so inspirational. This is all of us together. And I want you all to remember that as well. You know, when people think that, sometimes people think when they see somebody being successful or present, they think it's just one person. It's an entire crew, an entire modality that goes to support that, you know. Without the whole team, this wouldn't have been the success that it was. So I applaud everybody as well. And thank you from the bottom of my heart as well for this. And I can only see this going so many places, so positive about the future for Assam and the Northeast, really.
Thank you.
We are hoping to meet you in person, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait to meet everyone in person. Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
We will meet.
Fingers crossed soon.
We'll meet you in Assam, Nagaon Girls College.
Yes.
India, yeah. Okay, good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.